Hey folks, my camera is totally way off aim, but welcome back tonight to another episode of ShredMentor Live. And let's see, move stuff around a lot in the last couple weeks here. Alright, I'm probably going to be choppy as hell tonight because I still can't quite figure out what's going on with OBS, but we're going to do another episode of ShredMentor Live tonight. Hopefully the audio is working okay, and that's what matters tonight, okay? So, I'm tuned down a half step tonight. I am tuned to E flat, standard, okay? And tonight we're going to be talking about a way that is very easy to overlook, especially from a shred point of view. Let's go over to the chat here, and hopefully that loads soon. There we go, good. Yeah, very choppy. Sorry, can't fix it, so please don't mind the choppiness too much tonight, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Please let me know in the chat that you can. Tonight, this is going to be more of a songwriting type of thing. Definitely a good thing to do within a recording environment if you're going to do it, which is what I'm going to be using on a separate computer, so hopefully you can hear that as well. But anyway, one of the easiest things to overlook. Hey Matthew, thanks man, good to see you dude. Happy New Year. What we easily overlook is the ability to make a melody interesting without making it more complex. You can make it more complex. I mean, this is ShredMentor. That's part of the appeal sometimes. But even when you're not shredding, I think it's very important to have a simple melody sometimes, because remember that your listener is, I mean, even if they like shred, unless they're an actual shredder, they're probably not even going to be able to think as fast as you're playing with a shred solo. So there's a time and a place for that, and preferably it's not all the time. So I like to make sure, I think of melodies as two speeds when it comes to the listener's ability to understand what they're hearing. And it comes down to their ability to hum along, okay, or sing along or whatever, even if there's no words. Singing along to your melodies means that melody has to be slow enough. And as soon as you rip into 16ths and 32nd notes, then that's the moment when they stop being able to hum along, unless they just want to sound like a goddamn idiot, you know, because that's what it sounds like. Go ahead, sing along. Ready? Right, you were singing along the whole way, right? Right? You sung along to the whole thing, right? So, you know, yeah, not assuming you would have known what's going to happen, right? So there's just no way you could possibly know, like, or possibly be able to keep up with that. So, like, you're at sing-along speed, or you are, like, melt their mind speed, and it's just sort of a blur. They'll just sit back in awe at what you could do, and that's great, but that's not they're not grasping it on the level that they would if they could just sing along. They're not going to get that melody stuck in their head. Not in the same way that a really catchy melody gets stuck in your head. Hey, Vicky, thanks. And welcome. Happy New Year to you. Vicky is a DJ on MetalDevastationRadio.com, by the way, and she has a show. Let me know in the chat, Vicky, because I'm having a major brain fart right now. So what's your schedule? Please let me know when your show is on, because I don't want people to miss it. But yeah, Lady Red's Bath of Blood on MetalDevastationRadio.com. Very kick-ass show, and you should tune in there and listen to it after this. Oh, she might be doing it at the same time, so you might have to pick. Anyway, so we want to make melodies able to be interesting without being so complex the listener can't even understand what the hell is going on. And it'll still be a testament to your musicianship to create something complex like that. But let's talk about a different way. All right, so tonight I'm going to show you a way. I'm going to refer to my phone, because I made all kinds of notes and now I forget what the hell's it. And I hope my phone's not too dead, because yeah, good. It charged pretty fast. Good. Okay, so I'll just mess around on Facebook now. Okay, sorry. It's so easy to get sucked into this thing. All right, so we're going to start with the melody first tonight. Okay, and the melody itself is going to just be an interval first. Really simple. I want to start as simple as you possibly can, because I don't want the melody doing the heavy lifting. I want to show you how you can change chords behind it and make it interesting. Milimir Jovanik. Cheers. Hey, man. Welcome. Welcome to the show. So here we go. I'm gonna be in again. I'm gonna call everything E minor. I'm tuned down a half step, so it's Baroque E minor. There you go. Hear that? Root fifth. That's my melody. All right, that's my melody. Okay. So one of the very first things I can tell you here is, okay, we're gonna start with an interval and a melodic direction. Okay, so that's called melodic contour. The shape, the up and down shape of the melody is called the melodic contour. In this case, there's only 2 notes, so you only get, I guess you get 3 choices of what direction: up, down, or the same. So I guess my melody could have been, which is a viable option. Okay, but let's just, for the sake of this first example, I'm going to ascend. Okay, and I'm going to sequence this as we go, so you can also hear. I gotta remember which keyboard I'm dealing with it each time too. Okay, so the very first thing I can say here is I'm gonna say I'm in E minor here, but that doesn't mean that if my melody is already in E minor, you know, like based on the key of E minor. It doesn't mean my first chord has to be an E minor chord. So there's that root note, right? Because it's just so predictable. It's not really contributing much. There we go. So hopefully you can kind of hear that. I'm going to actually, let me get my mixer out here and just turn it up a little bit. Let me know if you can hear the other music. Like, can you guys hear that? Let me know. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. It's just cheap-ass synth, whatever I found here from another session last week. But anyway, all right. So if I just go back here, it's going to be really, right? Right? I'm not contributing. I'm playing the root and the fifth of the chord that's already there, and it's fine. It locks in perfectly. It's not particularly challenging to the imagination, though. It's not really stimulating to the imagination because I'm not doing anything that's not already there. Hey, thanks for verifying you can hear that all right. So I hope that you can hear it okay with the guitar at the same time. The guitar is going direct into the sound that you're hearing, but this is actually coming through a speaker, JBL speaker, into a microphone because it's just not that good of an audio setup between my two computers right now. Anyway, though, so all right, instead of playing the root chord, first of all, let me just tell you that don't always play the chord of the root of the key you're in first. That's the most obvious thing, and that's why we reach for it often. But you don't always have to start on the chord that is the root note of the key. So if I'm in E minor, I don't have to start on an E minor chord. I don't have to start my progression on it, and in fact, my progression doesn't actually even need to contain an E minor chord at all. Okay? Just for the sake of something cool, though, I will include the E minor chord, but I'm going to do it second. I'm going to copy it over here, and I'm going to move my... I'm going to actually start on the chord that my E is the third of in this key. So that's go down 2 notes. That would be a C. Okay? And again, I'm going to call it what it looks like on the fretboard. I know that it's technically a C flat because that's what it would be from this perspective. So that would give me... Okay. So then, let me give myself a 1 count because that's all I need here. Let me also, I'm going to try to get it so you can hear the root note kick in a little harder. And have those notes cut out just a little bit. I just want to be clear what's going on here. Bring it up. Nice low note there, so it sounds a little cooler. Anyway, so once again. So even there, just simply like that. Hey, Scott, I'm glad you could make it to this. I'm sorry we couldn't meet earlier today. Scott is in the Total Artist Development System with me. So tonight we'll talk about, this is more melody writing, so you know, this is actually Well, we'll talk about that in your lesson, Scott. But this is going to be, I think this will be kind of a fun experiment with some of the stuff we work on in our sessions there. All right. So right away, I haven't even gotten too crazy here, but just by starting on a chord that isn't the same chord of that my note is the root note of, I'm already getting it just a little bit more interesting. All right, so the next thing I'm going to say is instead of, right, not only should you just not start every chord progression on the root of the key, because that's like, it works obviously, but it's a little done. It's been done a lot. So giving people something, starting on a different chord and then resolving to the root of the key, that chord, the one chord, that's a great idea, and that's what I've done here. It's not great because I did it. I did it because it's great. Okay, so we've got that right now. I could also look. So here's the thing. Let me show you the thinking. This is really simple. The same way that I determined what chord to play instead of the root chord, you go down a third. That's the quick way. It's the first thing you can do. So one of the first things that I'm going to do here is basically, let's look at it this way. Every note in the scale is in 3 main chords. I'm not going to talk about sevenths. I'm just dealing with triads. Okay. A triad contains a root, a third, and a fifth. So every note in the scale is the root of its own chord, it's the third of some other chord, and it's the fifth of also some other chord. So 3 different chords contain it, because that's how we make the chord in the first place. If I want to find the notes in the chord for this note, I count up in thirds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I skip over 2 and 4. 1, 3, 5. That's how I find the chord tones for this note's chord. But if I want to find which chords this is the chord tone of, I go the other way in thirds. 5, 4, 3. It's the third of this. Okay? Actually, no. 1. It's the root of its own chord. 2, 3. It's the third of this chord. And it's the fifth of that chord. All right, so just counting that way, it'll tell you what it is that interval of. So this is the root of the E minor chord. I went a major third, so it is a major chord that it's the third of. And a perfect fifth down. Well, that was a minor third. I descended from C, so it's the fifth of an A minor. All right, so I could have also used an A minor. And let's just hear what that sounds like real quick. C, move my C's just down. Well, that's really low. And I'll just need to move that up. Okay, and the same thing will work like that. All right. Not groundbreaking. It's not like we haven't heard these sounds before. But it's just a little more interesting than starting with an E on your melody and then starting with an E minor chord as well, and you're in the key of E minor. It's like sort of like too much of a safe rollout. Give the listener a sense of wonder early. Okay, I'm going to do something more fun here. I'm going to put this back. I remember which keyboard I'm supposed to use for this. Okay, let me look here. Did I put that back? All right, fun stuff. Okay. Okay, this is where I was really going with this, and why I used such a really interesting picture for tonight's show. Let me. I'm going to just jump over to this page real quick. I don't want to lose the chat. Is it going to let me do it? Is it going to change? It's not going to change. Let's try that one. Okay, I didn't do it the correct way the other day, so this one. Okay, real quick. As quick as my lagging computer will let me do it. There we go. There we attempt to go. Sorry, everybody. So I've got guitar practice tools. Well, not really guitar practice tools. I have MailChimp. Yes, I emailed people. Hopefully you saw it, and that's why you're here. Okay, so Chrome is just hanging, but there we go. Thank you. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what it's doing to my computer. But anyway, let's you can take a look at what this. Oh, you know what? I don't think I can actually. I hope you're not hearing a whole bunch of noise, because I actually have this this YouTube video open in one of the tabs on this computer, so hopefully it's not playing right now. Hopefully I can just click on the damn thing. Hey Mike, how you doing, man? My holidays were actually pretty mellow and uneventful, which is just how I like them. No, that's fine. I'm glad to see everybody back. I hope everybody had a good, safe holiday and New Year. And there's plenty of time to talk about that based on what my computer is doing to me right now. I'm going to keep an eye on this because it's just taking too long. Anyway, I had some cool shit I was going to show you. And I'm just cursing. I usually try to control my language on these, but fuck it. Oh, look, there it is. The gray screen of empty promises. Oh, will it show me? Will it show me? Will it show us all? Probably not. All right. Screw this. Forget it. All right. Yeah, everything's just hanging right now. All right. I was going to show you cool stuff, but here's what I'm going to do instead. I am just going to close that damn browser. Forget it. Anyway. All right. So I'll just say what I was going to show you instead. Okay, so on my Patreon years ago, and it's never changed since, but the first thing I would actually look, if you look at patreon.com/Jason Aaron Wood, it's going to say Jason Aaron Wood is creating little audio universes. That's me being cute, but what I'm really doing is, I'm serious. That's what I really think I'm doing here, okay? When I create music, it has a little bit to do with what I'm looking for in the music I make and what I'm looking for in the music I listen to. Because, I mean, my style, like everybody's, is just a reflection of my tastes. So, you know, I'm making the music that I want to listen to. I'm making it for me, frankly. I'm hoping other people will enjoy it too. But I'm the first person I'm making it for. And I think that's what hopefully comes across, that it's authentic, warts and all. But I'm making it because I want to experience that. And what I do to, like what I'm about to show you here, is what I do very often. You can hear this a lot on my my album Escape. So jasonaaronwood.bandcamp.com. Very consistent about the Jason Aaron Wood tag there. But so if you want to find me anywhere, that's pretty much what it is. But my Patreon, creating little audio universes. That is what I'm basically trying to do. And what I like to do this is what I'm about to show you right now. All right, so I found a chord in the key that my note is in. And now I'm going to another chord. Same melody, all right? Here's the thing. I'm going to use a chord that's not in the same key that contains the B, which would have been A flat. Actually, it's not really a B anymore. It'll actually become a C flat at that point, because A flat, B flat, C, right? So I'm going to use this as the third of a minor chord in a new key. All right, so it's already a different chord. It's going to sound weird, okay? Don't get me wrong. It's definitely going to sound weird, but it's technically going to work. It's technically going to work. All right. Odd. Now this thing is, my melody probably isn't totally going to just be that, and I probably will want to make it a little more complex. But here's what's great is, like, if I create a melody that's longer than that, but starts here and ends here. These are just the end points, the start and end point of the melody. I could be like, and now that I have to kind of switch keys in my head, I have to juggle the other scale, but right? It's like, oh, it takes you a minute. It's disorienting, okay? And that is what a key change often is. It doesn't have to be, okay? It could be simpler, but I'm just going right for the jugular here. I'm going to show you stuff like this where you can basically find other, chords just by doing the same thing. All I did was, here's the trick, okay? If you want to find a chord in another key that the note you're playing in your first key is in, you just keep the melody intact and keep the scale intact. Yeah, that'll be my melody. All right, very odd because I'm going from a C major to an A flat minor. All right, so it ends up being, yeah, a little weird, right? Not that it can't be rescued. So let's see, I'm going to take all of these C's, and I'm going to go back to, yeah, just a regular E minor now. All right, now that new chord in the new context is pulling me back to what I'm doing after that. So I am making other stuff up as I go. All right, so I'm going to play off of the new chord in the new key. So at that moment, when the chord change comes in, it's a key change, but the melody itself is actually the pivot point. All right, so so you can do really cool stuff no matter what the chord change is, to be honest, because, and I did this, I forget what episode it was, but it was called Killer Chord Changes, and I did it a month or two ago, or maybe 3 months ago, I don't know. One of the previous ShredMentor live shows was entirely about these specific chord changes, but we were starting with the chord change. Here we're going to start with the melody, and I think it's important to start with a different thing first. Sometimes start with a chord progression, just lay it out, then go ahead and write your melodies over it, but sometimes leave it blank. Put a rhythm in there, sure, so you have some audible markers in time, but put a melody in first, because the thing that's going to come out to accompany that's going to be very different if you let the melody lead. And for that matter, sometimes start with the bass line. Sometimes start with just the drums and get just crazy complex with that and just flesh out the entire drum beat the way you want it to be, then write to that. So every time you do this, you're writing to what's there. So you have to write to nothing first, but then whatever you put down first is going to drastically change what would have come out, because that's the thing defining it now. So that's just a little side lesson here, but I really want to emphasize the importance of that, because you can get some really distinctive stuff by purposely switching just within one song from part to part which thing you're going to start with. So I might like be playing a solo, and then like everything I had recorded just runs out. I always leave my drums just going on into like infinity, just in case I continue to have cool ideas, because I can just keep playing to the click. In fact, I'll just leave the click on sometimes, and just loud as hell though. So I'm not going to do that to you tonight. But while recording, I'll just do that sometimes. I prefer to just have a beat that goes on into way too many repetitions, just in case I have a cool idea. I'll just keep running with it. So I write like a brickwork pattern. I'll do a melody for this long and do a chord change, and then I'll take that melody and I'll write out here, and then there'll be another chord. So I'm just like stacking them over top of each other as you go. All right, so anyway, that's just one example, right? Now I'm just gonna come up with some other melody. I'll try to keep it in E minor. So like yeah. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1. Yeah, that. Okay, so that'll be my melody. So let's just we heard the first one. I can delete it now. Okay, first of all, I'm in E minor in my head already, so it's very, root. There's your fifth, there's your third, there's your root. It's basically, the melody itself is outlining a minor add 9, which is, it's kind of like an E minor, but you take one of your root notes and move it up a note in the scale. That becomes what's called a ninth, but it's just the second note of the scale. It's very pretty dissonance, okay? Because you also have the third. It's different from a sus2. A sus2 is a root, a second, and a fifth. There is no third. An add 9 is basically when you add the third back in there. You already have the root and the third and the fifth, but you're putting the second as well in there. So that's the big, they're easy to confuse, and I know that people get hung up on that one. All right, so just by playing that and then adding this note to my melody, it gives it that same color. Anyway, so okay, it's based on E harmonic minor. Okay, so here's what I'll do. In this key, this third, this is the raised seventh. Okay, so if I just keep descending the harmonic minor scale, this is the third of the B. B major in this case, or B7. But as I said, let's just keep it to triads. All right, so that would have been that, but here's what I like to do. To give people a new flavor they didn't expect, but keep it still kind of working. You want your melody to stay in the key, but basically replace the kind of chord by just replacing the kind of third. Okay, so I would normally go a major third down, so I'm going to go a minor third down, just because that's not the interval. Yes, there is a note here, but that's called a sharp second in this case. So I'm going to use C as if there's a D, you know, or even a, you know, D flat. But I only need the triad right now. Then I can figure out what kind of C scale I'm going to be in, Phrygian or Aeolian or Dorian or whatever. Okay, don't need to worry about that yet. I just need the triad. All right, that's what I'm going to kind of do. So I'm going to jump into a C minor now. So this is a flat. So I'm just going to move it up a bit. Okay. All right, so that would be. All right, so yeah, very Lord of the Rings-y kind of. All right, right away. I just took something from harmonic minor, and it stopped being harmonic minor the minute I changed that chord. And now suddenly just the melody, however, reconciles the weird change. It introduces it and ushers in a weird change. But if I just, you know, just straight up splashed you with an E minor and then a C minor, it's going to be more jarring if there's not a melody to sort of carry that through. Mike's saying. Are you using 1, 4, 5's order? Not really. I'm not worried about that too much, because I want to be chromatically free to move to whatever. So I'm using the 1, 3, 5 formula for constructing chords, but I'm not really dealing with 1, 4, 5 as like a progression or worrying too much about that. I really am concerned about the root, the third, and the fifth, like what role the note, it's like functional harmony, the role that the individual note plays in different chords. So in this case, you know, I probably should do A minor just for alphabetical simplicity, to be honest. But, you know, A, B, C is 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. Right? 1, 3, and 5 are all related to this A. So I'm going to switch over to A minor for all this stuff from going forward here. And so instead of E, let's just move everything up. All right, so right, so yeah, you can get more complex if you want, but that's, so in this case, if I was going to play a melody like one, it works the same here. I'm way out of time, I know. It's all whatever. All right. It's very black metal too. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm using black metal chord changes in all kinds of more doom type stuff, and I can't say I really would call it what I do power metal, but it's a little influence once in a while. I will admit. And I say that without shame. I'm kind of reclaiming my right to like power metal. I know a lot of people think it's cheesy, and it is, but so what? It's cool. A lot of badass musicianship in it too. So anyway, All right, so what I'm kind of doing then is I'm going to replace what key it's taking place in by replacing whatever type of interval it is. If it's a major third, I will replace it with a minor third. So if I'm at A and I want it, so let's say I'll just take 1, 2, 3 right there. All right, that's a fun one, because what I'll do there is I will take that C when I get there, and let me delete that. I'm going to take this A minor chord. When I get to the C, so obviously I'm playing a root second and a minor third from the scale, so a third down from that C is still going to be A. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the type of third. Since it's a minor third, I'm purposely going to do the major third, and it's going to change the key automatically because that's not from the scale. It's going to change the relationship and the function that C is actually performing, because C is no longer going to be the minor third of a chord, it's going to be the major third of a chord. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it down. So I'm just dragging MIDI, just drag the whole big ass chord over there, but everywhere that there was a C, I actually need to move it back up to a C. I guess that's root, fifth root. Yeah. I love using this one too, but right, that's not your everyday sound, you know, and it's so simple. The melody couldn't be simpler. Just 1, 2, 3, you know, easy as 1, 2, 3. Really, literally is. So you can get, you know, you can get carried away with this. So I do want to give you a word of warning with this thing, because as I said earlier, this can be very disorienting. It can also be just really cool, like, oh man, that note, it always sounds like that. If there's a part in a song that sounds like, oh, that one note when they hit that, I love that. I think we've all had those moments. I almost guarantee you that it's not the note that did that, it's the chord change underneath it. Chord changes are where most of the emotion largely comes from in the enveloping experience and the soundscape. Not that, you know, the vocal performance and the expressive guitar performance and whatever else, you know, the musicianship overall is not contributing a lot. But I think that for me, I think it's that sense of being just swallowed by this sound. And again, this is why I say I'm creating musical universes. To me, that is what this is. That's how I experience this. I'm really feeling this change. That's where I'm allowing myself to be just completely immersed. Like I say, using the chords diagram and theory, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7 is more a harmonic minor or major. That would be harmonic minor. You're right. So all right. So the melody. All right. So earlier I was mentioning, I don't know if you caught this or not, but I'm going to say it again because it's important anyway for everybody that was definitely here. But you want your melody leading up to the point of the chord change to stick to one scale, generally, okay? Because that's what's going to make your melodies sound normal. And I mean, there are going to be exceptions to this, of course, but so I basically like, all right, and I'm purposely hanging out on a note that you wouldn't leave it at, you know. The ear wants to hear that, and if I don't give you any other context, your ear is still in E minor for that. So, but now suddenly that is that chord. It's like, ooh, where the hell did we go? Right. And I'm kind of the melody that you hear in these chord changes. It's not entirely that, because as soon as I get over the D sharp, it's actually an E flat now. So you can kind of go back and forth between keys like that. Just basically from an E minor perspective, descending from the third, it's E minor time here. 3, 2, 1, switch to C minor. And that's where you're using the D sharp and the D. So it actually becomes an E flat at that point, because the rule is basically in whatever scale you're using, every alphabetical note needs to be, every letter needs to be represented at least once. Okay, so that way in C minor you wouldn't call this C, then D sharp, because that's like, wait, is D being changed? No, it's E flat because there's not an E. So just to be clear, I'm going to call it by its context name as we get there. So 3, 2, 1. It would have been the raised 7, but now I'm switching keys, so now it's actually the 3rd. And I'm using the 2nd, which would have been the flat 7, the normal minor scale flat 7. This would have been the 6th, but now it's the root of my chord here. And then I go down a half step to what would have been the raised 7 of that harmonic minor scale, and now I'm at the 5th of the new key. That was a lot, so I'm going to just say that again slowly, because I don't expect that. I use this a lot, so I'm very comfortable with it, but I'm not going to pretend that wasn't a mouthful. So I'm descending. 3, 2, 1. Still E minor time. And as soon as I get to the 7, which would have been the raised 7 of harmonic minor, it actually becomes the 3, the minor 3rd of a new key, which puts the 2nd there and the root there. We did this, and it's just that relationship again, a major 3rd lower. But then you have chromatic movement. And then when we get to the B, you know, in C harmonic minor, that's how we would use that. We would come back up to the C, but here we're using it to facilitate a change back to the other chord. And I just descend straight 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go back to the C, and that's where it all starts there. As soon as you hit the 3 again, it's going to start over at that point. So there's just 2 chords, but there are 7 notes. So 3 notes there, 3 notes there, and then you kind of resolve back to the 5th, 4th, and then that's where you would be there. So most of it is during the E minor chord. There's just 3 notes out of the 7 that end up being in a different key. I hope that helped. Yeah, you're welcome. That's my point. I want to clarify this too. I don't want to just blitz through this and act like, yep, no, I said it once. No, because it is confusing, and it's quite a lot more to juggle than what's already challenging enough to just play in one key and juggle what notes in what chord and stuff. So having 2 scales on standby is more complicated, as you would expect. All right, so that's so yeah, just simply. Right, and that's what's fun here. Okay, so here's the fun thing. I acted like I was actually in A minor, but what I'm really doing is actually doing the diminished scale, the whole half diminished scale. And so this is what's kind of fun, is I could actually just keep doing this. Oh, you know what? No, here's what's going on. I do this a lot. I've actually, a lot as in, I think there's probably 3 songs where I might have done this already. They're not released yet, so I can keep doing it over and over again, but there's a song upcoming called King of the Ashes, which might very well end up being the album name, to think of it, to be honest. I was calling it Warpath last year because that's sort of the gist of where I'm going with it, but I have a technical death metal album coming out sometime in the first half of this year. All the instrumental stuff is more or less done, so I just need to shackle myself to the desk and come up with the lyrics. But anyway, I did it in that song, and I did it in another song that's supposed to be on the upcoming Todesband and that I don't work on. But anyway, what I can kind of keep doing, right, because I have my A minor. It sounds like A minor. It functions as A minor. 2 notes per chord. So it kind of becomes like the root and 2nd. And now that's when I would not use, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to keep moving these chords around. So So that's where it's the third of the new chord. So that's, and what's kind of nice there is I went from an A to an A flat major, A minor to an A flat major, which is actually the sixth chord. It's basically you're going from Aeolian in one key to Lydian in another key. And what's fun is Lydian is the sixth, so count back up, 6, 7, 1, and now it'd actually be in C minor. So when dealing with MIDI, I can just take all this stuff, copy it, paste it, and move it up a minor third, copy it again, paste it, move it up another minor third to E flat, and so on. And so let's make sure my beat can accommodate that. Yeah, you know what? I can even do it again. Let's go one more time. So it starts to become a little too formulaic, so I wouldn't recommend doing this in a real song, but let's copy that, paste it. What that is, all right, let's move that up. There we go. All right, so the chords are going to keep getting higher and higher, but again, 2 notes per chord. I can just keep going whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step for as long as I have notes to do it with. Oh. I might have moved something wrong. That should have worked fine. Because all it is every time, I'm just moving root second, and then the third becomes the major third. And then, yeah. So I messed something up there in the pasting, but yeah, that's right. Yeah, not sure what happened there. Yeah. Should have worked. I'm confused. Anyway, I confused myself. Congratulations! Yay, you got to see me do it too. It's sort of how it worked. I know, as I said, I used this in 2 other songs, so I'm going to walk through it again from lower 1 string. All right, getting ahead of myself. That's what I did. Eventually, you will run out. Look at that. So root note, second, major third. Now this becomes the root note of the new key. So I could do a sequence of 4s, basically, by going back a note. Go back a note. Right there. That's what I did. I didn't think it through properly. Anyway, so that's fun, and it's really just 1 chord change over and over again, but then it's being transposed up a minor third every single time. Except for the fact that it's actually staying in 1 key for 2 chords. So anyway, I was about to say something before I threw myself off my train of thought, but I do want to say something now. I mentioned before that this can be a bit disorienting to the listener by doing this kind of thing. It's kind of the point, but kind of a nice rule of thumb would be do 2 chords within the same key. If you give them a key change every single time, it might be a little too disorienting, which is not to say that I've never done it. I have, but you might want to hold off on that and just do it a little bit, basically by giving them at least 2 chords in the same key, it gives them a moment to sort of get their footing and get an idea of where they are before you thrust them back through that portal into yet another place. Because that's sort of, again, I don't have, what is it called, synesthesia. I don't have this, but I do have I have a vivid imagination, and so I do experience a lot of what I'm listening to as kind of a place, sort of. I'm going to try again with this browser. I haven't given up yet. I'm not done. I actually do this on quite a few songs, and I mean, like, just in general, just grab a chord that contains that note, but then don't have it be in the same key. Purposely do that. This is how I like to, and I'll even use it with like something. I did it in Doubt it's the opening song on my album Escape. So. So there you go. It goes into that chord. Right? I use it as it's like the last note of the other melody, and then I bring in a solo. Right? That's actually the melody from the chorus. So it's F minor. I'm actually talking about the actual key that it's in, but looks like I'm in F sharp. Harmonic minor, and I go to the 5 chord. So, and then this. And then the solo immediately after is. Right? Very different sound, but it rides on that note that you already heard. Okay, so I'm using something called common tone in that case, or oblique motion, which would be when you have 2-part harmony and one note moves up or down and the other note stays the same. So you're reintroducing that note in a new context. And that's kind of what I'm doing a little bit. But anyway, the big key here, we only have 13 minutes left. Okay, so the big takeaways I want you to have with this tonight, okay, and I only give you very brief examples, but start with an interval or a very simple melody. I mean, it doesn't have to be really simple because it can get more complex, and that is one thing I'm going to show you before we finish here. Okay, so I started with like, all right, and and that's fine because then I could show you, I can, or maybe C major, E minor. All right, so chord melody to kind of show you how that would work. And you can get, more interesting with it, like a C major 7, and then like a E sus2. Anyway, it's easier than change it to a clean sound. But that said, I mean, basically just all right. So that might be like, it kind of sounds like, and then maybe very, very different colors. So it's sort of like having a paint palette that only had room for 7 colors in it and upgrading to a bigger one, because now you have all of the colors, and not just like 7 colors, meaning the 7 chords that were already in your key, but literally every chromatic note as a major chord and every chromatic note as a minor chord. So you're going from 7 colors to 24. So that's a hell of an upgrade, if I do say so myself. So what we're kind of doing is we're working within a diatonic context within an overall much bigger chromatic context. We're going to treat our melodies in a diatonic way. So and we're going to give this a new chord. you know, and that's already kind of, you know, it's already, you know, it's already in the key. But one cool thing that you can do too, if you know, if you want a subtly different flavor, replace whatever chord would have happened there in the key with the other type. So I'm saying if it happens to be a major chord, replace it with a minor chord. If it happens to be a minor chord, replace it with a major chord. It'll be a little bit more subtle because the listener sort of expects to hear that note anyway, but it's got a new flavor. And so that's where you get this, you know, this sort of like, you know, your standard kind of, you know, classic metal sound of, okay, the implication is minor down 2 whole steps to a major, because that's how that would work. So, you know, 6 and 7 are both major chords, and 1 is a minor chord. Okay, so what we're doing is, instead of this, we're going. It's like, whoa, what happened there? It's like it's all something's weird in there, but it gives you enough of what. There's part of it that you expected. You expect that familiar part. We're just changing the color as we get there. So you'd be like, oh. And it's better to do this in more than one guitar. I'm just trying to demonstrate it on the fly with really bad classical guitar borrowings here by self-harmonizing myself. But that's kind of the idea. And you'll get a slightly more smooth kind of change, a less jarring one than the first one I did, where I like threw you like, you know, it was it? Not that it's bad. I'm probably going to use that on my album. I like this. I never thought about it, but I'm just, you know, I mean, my next album. This isn't going to fit in the technical death metal thing, but I'm going to do a 10-string album after that. So that's what I'm working on next. But yeah, just like interesting changes like this, it can be a really nice journey. Let's try to take a journey real quick back over to our browser again here. It'll let me. It won't let me. Haha. What a pain in the ass. I'm sorry, guys. I was going to show you some cool stuff, but apparently not. Oh, my kid's yelling. That's fun. It's not 9 o'clock. Oh, it's changing. What am I thinking? It's coming. One day. Oh, not yet. It's not, right? Because I had to do some stupid shit first. There we go. Now it's there, and this is what I'm going to show you. So, this is my my Bandcamp page, okay, and not for the sake of self-promotion, I promise, although I have no problem with that side of it either, but I want you to listen to my music today. And specifically, I would really recommend you listen to this album here. I just actually been playing around with Midjourney a lot and creating track art, but that's why I pulled this up originally. But down the sidebar here, we've got Emanations and Escape. Those two albums in particular, okay, they're gone. Love it. Sorry, so damn slow tonight. Sorry, guys. Oh, that's the one. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I didn't try to do this earlier, you know. But, yeah. JasonAaronwood.bandcamp.com. I would definitely recommend that you listen to Escape and Emanations when you get around to it. There are some odd moments. I want to give you some examples of where I might have even pushed it too far. So, let's see. I wish it would just, you know, let me do this, but my Ol Sonoof album, Glass Idols, there's a song called The Winds of the East. It's track 3. That song, if you can call it that, it's a track. I don't know if we can, it doesn't have a structure for the most part. It barely has anything that repeats at all in the whole thing. And I feel like that might be an example of pushing the limits of this technique, this writing technique, that is. And so I would recommend listening to that particular track. I would also suggest listening to, as you can sort of see it down here at the bottom of the page, it's just slightly cut off there, but sorry, my browser is freezing up because of all this crap going on. This crap being OBS, which is what I'm using to broadcast this. But yeah, the first song on Escape in particular is definitely something where I used this a lot. Actually, I used it all throughout the Escape album, so just listen to the Escape album. But yeah, that all said, this is a really handy tool, and you can get carried away with it, but I think it's nice to use, because anytime you're playing a melody, you can just pivot over to another key that also contains that note just by playing one of the chords that it is in. And I find it a little more useful to not go straight to the root chord. So if I'm like playing a B, or I might do it, depends on what the situation was. So it might work just fine. It might be all it needs to be. I might purposely use like an F minor there instead, where that note happens to be in it, but it's not, F natural isn't even in my key. So still very black metal kind of thing, but it can, it doesn't have to, if you don't play it on distorted guitars all the way through, it doesn't necessarily have to be. There it is. Escape. This one here. Oh yeah, and this is another one where I don't think I did it at all in this song, what we're talking about here. This is another one. Yeah, I just went crazy with with Midjourney art this past 2 weeks. I got the $10 plan on Midjourney, and I blew through all of my my allotted job minutes already, back on December 20th. So I'm half a month in. I went through everything already. So I had to buy some more reusable, I guess, minutes or whatever, more pictures. But anyway, I do find, I'm talking Midjourney, and I know that's a little off topic, but to me it's part of the experience. The album art is part of that world. And in fact, it's often the first thing that people are going to experience of your music is some kind of picture to draw them in. So never underestimate the importance of the album art. And so now that I can just generate artwork very quickly based on a prompt, the picture you're looking at there, by the way, is actually based on 2 pictures. One of them is a picture of me, not the one up there at the top there. There you go. Here we go. Yeah, I think this is a kick-ass picture. I had to do a little bit of work myself, to be fair, but very little on this one. But this was Midjourney creating a new picture based on a picture of me from 2010 and a woodcut, I think it was a woodcut, by Gustave Doré of Lucifer. And so, yeah, that turned out really cool. So, yeah, that picture is half me, half Lucifer. But actually, based on what song it is, it's Typhon escaping from under Mount Etna, or the other volcano, depending on which version of the story you go by. Yeah, lots of cool stuff going on. I guess I had more of these open and they're not there anymore, but yeah, this is the one I want to draw your attention to. And I missed a comment there. I'm sorry. Welcome. Sorry. I'm going to wait a minute because it takes so long to get out of here, but I don't want to miss any of your comments. Whoever just called me master, thank you. I'm not, but I don't believe in mastery, but thank you. Because I enjoy tackling new things, and if I was a master, I would feel like I have nothing left to work on, and that's never accurate, is it? Here we go. This is the album I'm talking about, Escape. This was not Midjourney. This was Cihan Burke, the really awesome artist that I had working on my album art for years and years, and if I could afford it, I would hire him again gladly. And if you're looking for someone who does fantastic art, you should too. I found him on DeviantArt originally. He's in Turkey. But yeah, very talented artist. This was like all hand drawn and I think this was kind of outside his norm when he did it, but this is a sequel to another album of mine called Labyrinth of Dreams. So you can see someone escaping from the labyrinth. Anyway, part of the experience, and this is probably my most atmospheric album. I really kind of want to make another album like that. And in fact, once I make my 10-string album, which will follow my current one I'm working on, that's probably I'm going to be incredibly atmospheric with that one and do stuff like what we're talking about tonight on that. So not trying to sound self-promotional, not exactly trying too hard to avoid it either, but just want to say this stuff is incredibly useful, and it might be something you already do, and it might be something incredibly weird that you haven't tried before, but let's try to keep it simple. Remember, every note is it's the root note of its own chord, it's the third of some other chord, and it's the fifth of some other chord, just in that key. But it's also the third of a different chord in another key. The third is always the one you can rely on. So if it's a minor third above the note in the key you're in, try the major third. If it's the other way around, then do it the other way around. That is the quickest way to find a chord that isn't in your key to use that, and then you're free. Now you're in another key, and now you can write a melody based on that scale and hang out in that key for a little while, resolve back to the root if it wasn't the root chord, and then try it again. And then you can adopt the fun challenge of what comes when you have to figure out how to get back to the original key. One cool thing you can do, by the way, if that doesn't work out, because sometimes I find my bridge of my song tends to get really long as I keep meandering through all these different keys trying to get back to a cool way to, a smooth, interesting way to get back to my original key. There's been a time or two where I just said, fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to play the chorus in a different key. And I've heard that done by other bands too. So on my old Sonu album, Glass Idols. So that was the first one I had. Oh, I guess it's going to take like a half hour to scroll down this page too. Mike is saying, thank you again, Jason, for all your help and time you put aside for these lessons. You're very welcome. I am very apologetic for the lag tonight. This is not resolved as much as I thought it was. I've been working on OBS issues all week, so I'm very sorry for that part of it, but I'm glad that you were able to tune in and hopefully get some benefit from this tonight. This album here, Glass Idols. First of all, the reason we're on Escape, I think you should listen to this whole album. Go to jasonaaronwood.bandcamp.com/album/escape, or just go over to that one we were just looking at where it looks like the sun rising or setting over top of a labyrinth. That one right there, December 2016, that one. Listen to that, because listen to how I do that. Try to grab a guitar while you do it, because I'm not going to tab the whole thing out for you, but just find the power chord going on in the background and find the melody note and try to get them to just play together, and then listen for what sounds like, whoa, what was that change? Try to pick out what I did there, because there's a lot of fun stuff in there that I'm like, that's kind of fun. I amuse myself with some of the choices I made on that, and there might have been some drugs involved on that album, to be honest. There might have been. That was the last time. Anyway, though. Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad you like Monolith. I used it all over the place in Monoliths of Wrath, too. Thank you. I'm glad you like that one, too. And so, that's my first metal album I released on my own. So that just kind of, when we're almost 10 years out now. So that one is basically, I've been using this a long time, is the point. So yeah, on Glass Idols, there's a few examples on this. I use it all throughout the album, to be honest, because I just use it all the time. There's probably not a single album I've done that doesn't do this once in a while. Labyrinth of Dreams has it on at least the last song, The Giant Within. That Labyrinth of Dreams, by the way, is an album about my dreams. I don't have recurring dreams, but I have recurring themes of my dreams, and so I sort of embodied different themes that I have with each of these songs, basically. So I guess two of them are about people who have died and visit me in my dreams. One of them is about dreams where you can fly, and The Giant Within is basically an embodiment of my nightmares. So that one, I used some darker stuff, and that's where this stuff came in. So there's definitely some stuff in the middle of The Giant Within as well. So Parasite, though, as I was saying about, if you can't manage to meander your way back to the original key easily, and it feels like enough, then just go into your chorus in a different key. I did that in Parasite too. Anyway, yeah, that's quite a lot of different stuff, but I'm just kind of trying to show you areas where I've kind of done this. I actually did it in my last release, which was on my single Sycophant here on the side there. That one, I did it quite a few times. It starts off in E flat minor and ends up in all over the place. It's in, this would be F sharp minor or G flat minor, and then A Phrygian, or no, not even Phrygian. It's like A A flat. Yeah. I forget exactly how that riff goes because I haven't had to play it since I recorded it. Anyway, that's my little peek into how I work. I don't remember how to play my own riffs a couple years later because I don't need to. I finished the song. That's how much I care about creating the little musical universe. I'm really creating this because I just want to listen. If I ever want to play live again, I'm obviously going to have to work this out, but no, I don't feel like doing that. So until that happens, I mostly just need to get through the song and be able to play it well a couple of times, both for the repetitions as well as for the left guitar and right guitar, because I do double tracking, not quad tracking. So as long as I can get it right for all the times I need to play it in the song, and yeah, done. I don't ever need to play that again, and therefore I won't, and I probably don't remember how to play it, unless it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so I use all this stuff all the time, and there's going to be more music being added to my Bandcamp frequently, so keep an eye on it, maybe bookmark it if you like what you hear on these, but do listen to Escape just for the sake of hearing different examples of this kind of thing, because I'm always trying to make the melody sound normal and singable, and in fact I am singing it all throughout Escape. There's not really any death metal. There's something that was starting to lean toward a little bit of death metal, but I didn't quite go there, and it's only on one track, which was track 3. I don't remember. It was the one I was working on a video for a month and a half this year, but I forget already. The Abyss of My Subconscious, that's it. Mike, hey man, I'll see you next week too, man. Thanks for joining in. It is after 9 o'clock, and therefore I do need to get going, but sorry, a little bit rough running tonight. I hope that you guys got something cool out of this. It's almost every time we a lot of the times we're meeting here, I've got my computer going with a recording session in the background. I can't stress enough how important it is that as you try out different ideas, to understand how theory works, you really do need to have a recording software at your disposal, and it's a great tool that you're only going to kind of get so far, and you're going to kind of keep hitting a wall until you're able to get in there and pile sounds on top of each other like that and interact with your own ideas, because that way you know what chord you just entered, or at least if you haven't, you can look at it and see which notes are in there. I'm using MIDI as a writing tool, as a learning tool, as a writing, as a experimental tool. So do grab yourself some recording software and a recording interface if you don't already have it, because I would not know theory and be able to write the way I do now if I didn't start doing this a long time ago and use it constantly. I have been recording since 1996 or so. Okay, not like my first 10 years were worth it. Probably, honestly, to be fair, probably not the first 17 years of my recording was just kind of shit, to be fair. I didn't really learn how to do it properly until about 2013. And ta-da, I started actually releasing albums at that point too. So there is a correlation there. Anyway, yes, use the tools at your disposal to the maximum benefit, and this is one thing I cannot stress enough. Use recording software not just to write an album, but to practice these concepts, because that way you can enter something, you can record it, you know what you just did. Now try that other thing over, because now you can analyze how it's going to work with your own ideas. So I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Scott, don't forget to book that other lesson if you didn't already. I thank you for letting me know ahead of time, though. And yeah, I will see you guys all next week, hopefully, and hopefully with a more working version of OBS. Something went wrong with my video card, and I didn't fix it like I thought I did. So anyway, sorry for asking again, where is the free recording software on your page? Go to ShredMentor ShredMentorOnline.com/recording. The software itself is not on my page. There are links to it from my page. I don't host any of the software, but that is go to ShredMentorOnline.com/recording. And if you're not, and that's not just for you, Scott, either. Anybody watching this, if you need to get started recording, I have what I think is a pretty kick-ass resource to point you in the right direction to get the bare essentials you need, which are, most of all, software for multi-track recording, which is Reaper, if this is a new topic to you, and a recording interface. Those are the two absolute musts. You're going to want something like Easy Drummer sooner rather than later too, and eventually, when you can afford it, some studio monitors so that you can hear an accurate representation of what's going on in your session. But for the time being, just to be able to interact with your sounds, it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but you do need the interface and the recording software, which $100 for an interface, and you can get Reaper for free. I think it's reaper.fm is the website where you can download the software. All right, so I will see you guys next week, and thank you once again for joining me. And let me know, you can, if you have any requests, by the way, please send me an email at info@shredmentor.com with any topics that you want me to cover, by the way, because I want this to be relevant to you. But yeah, anyway, this is me signing off. You have yourself a great week, everybody, and I will see you next time. Of course, it'll take a half an hour to stop streaming, but supposedly I'm stopping streaming. So anyway, I'm just going to play guitar until the pop-up comes up, but thank you all for joining me, and there it is. It's just asking me to stop recording. Yeah, I guess the show's going on even longer because I can't get the thing to stop. That's how slow my computer's running right now because of this software. So, oh well, stop streaming is what I really want. All right, well, more playing, I guess. I think they call that surprise Phrygian. Let's try stopping streaming again, if it'll ever let me.